This is my Land Rover Defender 300 TDI, old school turbo diesel engine. And over the next 12 months, I'm going to turn this into a budget-friendly, family-friendly Overland tourer. So here we go. It's pretty much as stock standard as you can hope for a Land Rover to be at this age. It's a South African import, so this bull bar came out as standard in 1996, 1997. There are no other expedition style upgrades apart from this rock slider and tree bar here, which you can see, but that's what this video is about. I installed this one a few days ago just to kind of have a go and see what it's like, which is why you can see the mark on my face. I dropped the socket from up here onto my face while I was working under the car. Let's just say it's not as easy as I thought. I thought it would just be line up, bolt on, but no, there's a little bit more to it. But now we're going to do the other side, and I feel like we should have a chat to see if these things are actually necessary. You see, generally people can go a little bit nuts when it comes to overlanding and building and kitting out a vehicle, and they're just everything that you can find on Instagram, you just buy and bolt onto the vehicle. What I'm trying to achieve with a budget-friendly build is to only put on what is necessary, because everything that you put on is adding weight, and it needs to have at least one, but possibly 2 or 3 functions. Space is at an absolute premium, so is weight, because it adds to your fuel bill, it adds to the wear and tear on the components. So, that in mind, what is the function and the purpose of the rock sliders with the tree bars? Well, first of all, let me apologize for the state of my hair. It looks like I should be in a 1980s or 1990s music video. But the reason for the rock sliders is very simple. As standard, the Defender comes out with a very flimsy aluminium sill here. It's basically just a bit of trim that fits underneath the door to finish off the side of the vehicle and hide some sort of rather nasty looking nuts and bolts and things down here. This is no good if you're going slightly off-road. You could go down a ditch and hit a rock and bend the sill underneath the door. Then the door probably won't open correctly, you might bend the chassis. It's all for protection from side impact, anything off the beaten path. You need some protection underneath and from the side. Another major reason is that I have kids traveling with me. This car is too high for their little 7-year-old legs. This is like a makeshift step in a way to help them get in and out the vehicle. And the third, and probably more important than that, is that it gives you another jacking point on the outside of the vehicle. So you don't always have to put a jack underneath to jack the car up. This gives you access with a high lift jack, gives you a solid jacking point from the outside of the vehicle in case you kind of get a little bit stuck off-road. You can get a jack in there and lift it up. Before I get started, let's chat about these rock sliders here. I got them from Safari Equip, and the reason for going with them and not the Terra Firmas and all the other ones is because these are galvanized and powder coated, and I just figured I wanted to last as long as it can possibly last, and I like the look of them. In terms of cost, they're all around 300 to 350 pounds, and in retrospect, I think I should have gone for a different one because of the way that this one fits onto the chassis. But I've got them now, and they're pretty good and they're pretty solid, and I'll explain to you what I mean when we fit them.
The first thing to remove is the aluminium sill. It's held in with 6 bolts, 5 of them are a 10mm spanner and 1 is a 13. If you're lucky, the corroded ones will snap off, and if you're smart, then you've used Lano Guard under your car and they'll just glide off with no trouble. Shameless plug to buy Lano Guard. A discount link is in the description below. Once that was off, I could then treat the few little spots of rust below the doors. Land Rovers are notorious for holding moisture at the bottom of the doors and rusting out, so now's the chance to do something about it.
The points where the rock slider is going to bolt onto this vehicle are on, I think they're called the outriggers. This one back here, then you've got another one here, and then right down the front you've got a bolt here, which is at the bottom of the bulkhead, and those 3 points are where the rock slider is going to anchor itself to.
This nut needs to come off because it'll be used to secure the front of the rock slider, but it's very prone to corrosion and can feel like it's welded on. I hit it with a wire brush and coated it in some oil before using a little trick I picked up in Africa. To get extra leverage, you can link 2 spanners together and undo some really tough bolts. Once that's cracked off, you can get a socket on it. It's quite a long thread and it takes a little while, and because of science, resistance equals heat. Now you can do a test fit to see where to drill the holes. It weighs about 20 kg, so using an axle stand on one end is super helpful. Push the rock slider's front bracket onto the bulkhead bolt, and then you can line up the other 2 brackets onto the ends of the outriggers and mark them off. I used one of the spacers, which comes supplied with the rock sliders, to see if I had lined up the holes correctly before drilling. And I drilled oversized holes to give a little bit more room for adjustment later on. I popped the nut back on for safekeeping and put a layer of paint over the newly drilled holes. And while waiting for that to dry, I did the last lineup, and I saw that the rock slider had to sit a little further back to line up perfectly, so I put some spacing washers on the bulkhead bolt. The rock slider was now lined up, but what I was seeing is that the spacers supplied didn't match up with the gaps between the outriggers and the brackets on the rock slider. And so,
What I understand is that the spacer has to push the rock slider away from the car enough to clear the sill so that it can come up next to it like that.
and to show you what's happening under the car, when the rear spacer is fitted correctly, it makes a gap so the rock slider can move up into the correct position. But then the middle fixing point has way too big of a gap, which means the supplied bolts are now too short. So I have to go into full bush mechanic mode and create some spacers out of some old heavy duty washers.
We're sort of half in luck. I had to scratch through my boxes and I found the right size that's slightly longer, but I only found one. So let's just get one in so I can sleep soundly tonight.
The makeshift spacers seemed to do the trick, and I was very lucky to find that longer bolt, but...
Okay, that is janky as balls, but better than nothing. Alright, it's the next morning. Weather sucks, no surprises. But I've been thinking about the other side, the first side that I did, which I didn't do a great job on. It's got some gaps and things, and I got the other side, which I did yesterday, to fit so nicely with the gaps nice and straight. It's made me want to redo the first one, so I'm going to have a crack at it this morning. So I have no idea what I did the first time round, because it really wasn't on straight. So all I've done was just slacken off the bolts, and I was expecting to re-drill holes and mangle things and just, you know, really persuade it to fit. But basically, it just needs to be readjusted.
but not before doing a little rust treatment, which I forgot to do the first time round. What I learned on the second rock slider is to fit the rear bracket first and make sure it's in the correct place, and then do the front one near the bulkhead and finally fit the middle fixing point. This one also needed extra spacers.
So remember I said that I probably should have gone for the other style rock slider. What I meant by that is that you get a different design which also attaches to this outrigger, but instead of attaching to the front of it, it has a brace across the length of it. So I think it could be much stronger than this, but I'm happy with these. They're strong, and I'm not going to do any hardcore off-roading, so this is more precautionary.
Now the last thing to finish off the fitting is to notch out the rear mudguard and make sure it fits nicely before fastening it to the back of the rock slider. There are pre-threaded holes and supplied stainless bolts.
I'm really pleased with that. It finishes the vehicle off nicely, makes it look rugged and strong. My kids can hopefully get in and out now. I know I'm sort of protected from the side a little bit and from underneath. I mean, I'm stoked. It's the first sort of major overlandy kind of upgrade. So much more to come, so much more to do. Although there is one other job with these which I might do right now. I've noticed that these are quite slippy in the wet, so I've bought some grip tape and clean it up and stick it on.
To get rid of any grease or grime, I'm using some isopropyl alcohol and a clean rag to wipe down the bars before sticking down the tape. It's just a 50 centimeter by 5 meter roll of grip tape which I got off of Amazon, but I think it'll more than do the trick.
Wow, that's super grippy. Well, I am thrilled with the way these have turned out. I couldn't be happier. These are so solid. They make the vehicle look so capable, so strong and rugged, and now the underside is protected. The door sills are safe from any big rocks and things. My kids can get in and out. We can access the roof. We've got solid jacking points. I'm so glad this is on. It looks great. I think it really looks great. Next up, I want to look at the back door area. Maybe do like a fold down table, tidy all that up. That's going to be the section of the vehicle which we live out of when we do some overlanding trips. So that's next up. But for this video, we're done. Thank you so much for watching. Please do consider subscribing. Please like it and share it and send it to your mates. Anyone who might be interested in putting a pair of these rock sliders on, see how to do it and how not to do it. So thanks again for watching, and see you next time.